Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tom Rowland Podcast, brought to you by Starbright. We're brought to you by Starbright today. As always, Starbright is the maker of an awesome line of products to take care of your boat. That's where I use it most. Whether it's the Salt Off product or any of the boat cleaning products, Starbright has you covered. Definitely check them out. They're not only a great company for the products that they have, but they also do a tremendous amount in conservation, and that is certainly important to us all. Doug Mientkiewicz is our guest today. He is the only American to have a gold medal in the Olympics, a World Series ring, and a Golden Glove. He is not only a great baseball player, obviously had a fantastic career, but he also spends a tremendous amount of time in the Islamorada, Florida Keys area. He is a big sail fisherman, which is, of course, why he ends up on this show for the fishing and mindset, the way that he is using his experience in baseball in fishing. And we had a fantastic conversation. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. So here we go.
I am Doug Mientkiewicz, and this is the Tom Rowland Podcast.
Doug, what's happening?
How are we doing? That's a long time coming for this one. I've been dying for this one.
Well, I'm really excited to have you on. We were talking before about how our paths should have crossed, but never really in person. We have so many friends,
so many mutual friends. You know, Steve Roger to the whole. I mean, it's the fishing world is. We were talking about baseball off the air, and baseball is very similar to fishing. It's a tiny little like. It's worldwide, but it's amazing how many times you cross paths with each other. And we haven't done it, but I've been a fan of the show since it came out, and always watch it. You know, I read. I've coached him in football, so that was a huge like kind of in for me. I thought so. It's way too long that we haven't crossed paths since before this.
Yeah, well, I know you don't like to talk about yourself, but just to introduce you, you're the only American with a gold medal, a World Series ring, and a Gold Glove.
That's your bathroom. That's your lazy bathroom trivia. That urinal.
That's what you don't ever want to tell. That's what apparently you don't tell a lot of people. But that's true, and that's amazing. You're our second gold medalist here in the last week or so. I had Ryan Krauser, the shot putter, who is also a fisherman, on recently. He's a 3-time gold medalist. That guy's incredible. He's 6'7", 335 pounds, and he ties size 28 midges.
That's incredible. Incredible.
That's the most incredible thing. Yes, he can throw a shot put further than anyone in the world, but he can take his giant bear paws and tie literally the smallest thing that you could imagine. That's
like texting somebody with your elbow. I mean, that's pretty much what that's like.
Doing brain surgery with your elbow. Yeah. And especially if your elbow is, it stands around 6'7". That's pretty amazing. But so that's quite a career. When did you start baseball? When did your baseball career start?
It started, my family moved from Toledo, Ohio, to Florida. It's funny, my uncle that brought us down here owned the only oceanfront property on Lower Map in the 70s. He owned all the lumber yards in the Keys. He actually brought my dad down here to build houses in the Keys, and we were still living in Miami. So that's kind of how that started. Crazy offshore. I mean, I remember catching bonefish off the dock, like literally at will, and it was incredible. So, but my parents moved down here. I was a hockey player. I was skating before I was walking. And my dad obviously is in the early 80s, so I think 80 or 81. So my dad was fearful of bringing his kids to the crime capital of the world at the time. And he was like, we're going to put them in everything. So I was in basketball, football, baseball, and baseball became like a obsession. My dad and I always had two things in common: sports and fishing. And whether we weren't practicing in the batting cage, we were on the water. So it was a good kind of twisty dynamic to where it was our getaway together, and then it was a chance to clear the brain and get back to almost like work. You know, my family was very invested in their kids, and I'm very grateful for that.
Wow. What has changed in kids athletics when you obviously baseball was a passion for you. You look back on how you got started, and you're close to my age. You get started in baseball and you end up making a career out of it. Compare that to how kids are would go into it today? Because
I think
it's certainly
like
changed.
sports today is so specialized. Like parents want to jump them into, oh, he's just a baseball player. Well, that's great. But I always tell parents this: if you open up a bio of a NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, whatever it is, their bio doesn't say been playing baseball since the age of 6. It's he ran track, he played football, he played basketball, and I always equate to one leads to the other. Like there might be a mental toughness in one sport you don't get here. Breed's another great example. Wrestling. You could see the fact that he was a wrestler. It came out in his football skills and vice versa. So there's a lot of. I always felt like football was a mental and physical toughness. Basketball was like an endurance toughness, and baseball was a combination of all three. And I think when one sport is more challenging to a kid, then one comes easier. The challenging one, it teaches them to appreciate how easy the other sport is and not take it for granted.
Do you think that a kid today can be a 3-sport athlete and then make it as to the highest level, even D1 level?
I hope so. I mean, they should. I mean, I really, because a lot of the problem is that it's not, and I don't blame the kids. I blame parents, and not to say, look, there's no book on parenting, right? They don't hand you this book when the kid's born and be like, here's your go-to manual. You know, we make mistakes as parents and as fathers, and we want our best for our kids. That being said, I always go to people that have experience. It's like trying to go catch a bonefish. Well, I catch sailfish. I won't be able to see one, but I go to people that have done it before. So you don't want, the problem I think is that sometimes coaches are so specific because they want to win for themselves, and they don't realize that, you know, if Johnny's not at practice, it doesn't mean he's not getting better. He still wants to gain athleticism from other sports. So it's not a negative if he's missing baseball because he's at basketball. And I've been on the other side where I want my kids to play baseball, but I always try to make sure, like, I want you to play as many sports as you can. I'm not gonna look differently at you. And I think college coaches actually appreciate kids that play multiple sports in high school and at the youth level.
Yeah, my son was a 3-sport athlete, and when I was in high school, that was a really big deal. If you were a 3-sport athlete, you got your name on the wall, and his name's on the wall now, but it's only on the wall with like 3 other kids out of his class that were 3-sport athletes. And he actually was encouraged by some coaches to play other sports. He was a wrestler, and so he was encouraged to, run cross country in the fall. That was really good for wrestling. It got him in. The coach just thought, well, that gets you in really good shape. Do that, and then you can get on the mat. And then but his main sport was lacrosse. Even though his best athletic performances were in wrestling, what he really liked was lacrosse, and he thought he was going to play D1 lacrosse. But when he would go to the state tournament in wrestling, and then he would step back out onto the lacrosse field, and the coaches are like, dude, where you been? And he's like, well, I was earning 3rd place for my school in wrestling in the state, right? Like, where have I been? I've been doing what the head coach told me to do. But the assistant coaches were like, no, you don't know the plays. You don't know anything. You don't know what we're doing. Sit on the bench, whatever. Even though he was one of the better players, he got penalized for that, which was super frustrating for him because he thought he was told by one coach that's the right thing to do. Then he goes back out there, and the other coach is like, nah, you're behind.
It goes back to communication in anything. If you don't communicate with your coaches, and from coach to coach to coach to, and when the messages get mixed is when we get into problems, right? And that's kind of what, I said, I've been on both sides of it. I just don't understand why you want to penalize a kid because he's playing another sport and I had the same situation at Coral Shores. One of our kids is a really good basketball player. I'm like, all right, he's a pitcher too, but I'm like, I'm not going to pitch you that much early in the season because you're not there yet. That doesn't mean you won't be there, but I'm going to make sure the last thing I want to do is get you hurt early because you're not in baseball shape yet. So you just have to have it. And that's where I feel like the good ones, they truly are on the same page because they want their school to do well. It doesn't matter what sport it is. We all want to do well. So being on the same page from everybody on the top down, that's a shame too, because coaches today make it more about themselves than they do the actual, and that's where it goes back to, we talked about earlier, youth sports coaches now want to win. Mm-hmm. They don't want to develop. They want to win. And that doesn't no one's going to remember that plastic ring you won when you were 8 because your coach, took all the best players. I want to get better. It's not about being good at 8. It's about getting better at 8. And that's kind of how I've tried to, live my coaching life and my dad life through that.
Right. When did you know that you had a career in baseball? Like you had the opportunity to have a career? Was it in high school or did you play in college to pro shot?
I transferred my senior year to Westminster Christian in Miami. Now we have Alex Rodriguez was our shortstop. And I had 4 guys on that team make it to the major leagues. And like 11 of us were Division I guys. So we were pretty special. We won a national championship. But even that, I didn't know. I took that, and my mom worked at University of Miami for 35 plus years. And I've been hanging around at UM since I was a little rugrat. And I ended up signing to go to Florida State. So I went to Florida State. And even after that, I wasn't quite sure. And it really started to where I started playing pro ball and I started seeing guys that I've competed against my whole life, and they're on TV. And I'm like, well, if they can do that, then I can do this. And I was never that guy that my dream was to play in the College World Series, and I did it twice. After that, I was like, it's gravy. I thought the big leagues were so far-fetched. They were just on a pedestal. And then when you keep playing and you see your friends that you've competed with since you were 6 make it, and you're like, well, if they can do that, I can be an average guy. And then it just kept, I was never that kid that was like, I'm going to be a major leaguer. No, I was just like, I'm playing and I know I'm pretty decent at it, but so are my friends. So I was lucky to be around a lot of really good players. My high school area had, several major league players in Little League all the way up. So we just competed. And we were just having fun doing it. So I never was that kid that woke up and was like, I have to be a Major League Baseball player.
And so that's kind of funny because you end up at the absolute peak, World Series champion. And you just basically just took here's an opportunity. I'm going to try to get better. Here's an opportunity. I'm going to play for this team. Here's an opportunity. Is that how it kind of went all the way to the top?
It had. I only spent 2.5 years in the minor leagues. I went from AA to the big leagues in 1998. I played all of 99 in the big leagues. It was awful. I went in every day hoping to get sent down. I was like, I don't belong here. I'm not good enough. And I got sent down. I played the whole year in 99, didn't make the team in 2000. And that was the first year I ever played AAA. I had the most fun I've ever had playing the game. And that happened to parlay that into the 2000 Olympics. So without struggling, I don't have the Olympics. And without the Olympics, I don't have a career. I use the Olympics as, hey, if this is all I got, and this is my pinnacle, I can go back, I can rest my head on the pillow every night and realize that I've done something that not a lot of people can say they've ever done for a country that it gives me goosebumps to know that I've put this uniform on and put my colors on several times. And so I use that as I didn't have the weight of the world on my shoulders I have to be this or I have to be that. I was just like, okay, I'm on the house's money now. Now we're just going to go play. And I did, and I ended up making a career out of it. So I always say I was in the right place at the right time a lot of times, but I always try to tell kids or players and whatever it is, my own son, just because it looks like doom and gloom in your face, there's a silver lining to this. You just haven't seen it yet, and you'll see it. You'll understand it. And when you look back, you'll be like, that was why. So adversity, like my son tore his ACL twice in high school. Wow. And he's a catcher. And, he's worried about going to school, blah, blah, blah. Well, he ends up at one of the best junior colleges in the country. And, it just now all of a sudden you had an opportunity. Did you have a setback? Yes, but so does everybody else. That's just called life. That's just the way we get knocked down. We got to get back up. And now you're seeing the rewards where he's grinding his way. He loves where he's at. And I was like, that's you're taking an opportunity. You can look at two things. You can be huge negative, or I've got an opportunity to make this one heck of a story. You just haven't written the ending yet. So go write your own ending.
That's super cool. I always, I come back to this one thing that kind of hit me one time. It hit me about my own fishing career because I grew up. There's another part of this story that we should have crossed paths another place, because I read here that you were the manager of the Chattanooga Lookouts for a while. That's where I'm from.
Right. I knew that.
Grew up in Chattanooga. So I hope you had good experience in Chattanooga.
Anyway, amazing.
So I grew up in Chattanooga and I'm trying to be a fishing guide. Well, I show up in Key West and I am by far the greenest, least experienced person there. And I'm thinking that's a huge negative. My father wasn't a fishing guide. My uncle wasn't a fishing guide. I didn't come from a family. I'd never been to the Florida Keys. Like there's all of this. But after a while, those guys kind of had their milk route. They kind of did the same thing. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I was going every which way. And I was basically just trying to stay out of everybody else's way for a few years of just, I don't even want anybody to see me because I obviously don't know what I'm doing. That was a huge weakness. But over time, like 10 years in, I realized that weakness was actually the greatest strength that I had because I didn't see things. I saw things with fresh eyes. I didn't see things the way everybody else saw them. I didn't have any idea. I would go over to a place that I had never seen anyone fish there, and I would go fish there. And if I found one fish there, that was great. Later, I come back and it's like, well, when the weather's really bad, that's the only place that I've ever found a fish. When it's really, really bad. But it's this idea that weakness is strength. And I've seen that play out in a lot of other places in my life too. And for my kids and for other people, it's like you go in and whether it's like, I don't have any money, I don't have any experience, I don't know anyone, I don't know, keep going on and on down the line. And if you stay with it long enough, the fact that you didn't know anyone and you had to make all new friends, or you had to introduce yourself to all these people, or you didn't have any money, so you couldn't just do what everybody else was doing. You had to, hustle and grind and do whatever to get your business started.
That's right.
Eventually, that will be a massive negative at first, but eventually that will turn into your greatest strength.
100%.
That's what I think.
100%. Like you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I equate it to done a ton of sail fishing my whole life up in Miami. Well, we moved to Almirada, and we used to fish. We always fish the Almirada tournaments, and we always have. And I moved here full time, and I was like, well, like for example, we weren't very good at shower fishing, and I was like, you know what? I spent countless hours, no rods on the boat, just driving up and down the reef line. And trying to stay out of, if the charter guys out there and they're making a living, hey, if you see a spray, I'm getting out of the way. But I'm out here to observe. I'm out here to watch. I want to see how they react. Nothing you can take away from when you put your time in. For example, you can go buy all your bait for tournaments, right? I don't like that. I feel like you get a competitive advantage when I've caught them. And the fish gods will take care of us if we take care of everything that we have to do on our own. You get what you put in. And that's just the basic, what my dad's always taught me. He always used to tell me 100 swings a day, you're only fooling yourself. And I tell my son that every day. I'm like, it's never been a better time to be a savage. If you put your grind in right now and the way the world is right now, if you're a savage, you can do whatever you want to do. It's just, you don't know it yet. And just, you have to, whatever it is, just hard work. There's nothing that can deter it. So you just keep your head down, keep grinding, keep your nose to the grindstone. And if you're a grinder, you'll find a way. You'll find your own path.
Yeah. And you've certainly seen that with your career.
That's, people always say like, oh, you were so lucky. And I'm like, that drives me crazy. I feel like luck, you create your own luck. Like, preparation creates opportunity. And like, of course. Cause I mean, baseball is one of those things where no matter who you talk to, for the most part, everybody played Little League, right? And like, I always say this too, baseball is one of those sports where when you look at people that play baseball, they look more, not to sound weird, but like more normal than everybody else. You can tell what a defensive tackle looks like. I mean, they're huge and they fly and they're athletic. Like they're just amazing. They're like unicorns, right? Basketball players, they're taller, they're leaner. You can just look at a player. Baseball, you look and you're like, that's it. Right. I mean, we're athletic, but like, we're not like bulky, huge, and we're relatable, because I think baseball, more than any other sport, there's such a humbling aspect to it. There's so much failure that you learn to make fun of yourself when you mess up. It's just like, I was really bad tonight. There's nothing you can do. I was really bad, because it's such a hard sport. So it makes us, you always have that people like, well, I played baseball. I'm like, yeah, I know. Here we go. Here comes the high school story. And like, oh, I got hurt. I'm like, so did we. Like I had 11 surgeries and probably still need 4 more, but I wouldn't change it for a world. It's not a sob story. It's just reality. Like, I chose to work harder than you did, and I'll refuse. I'm very humble, but I will not let you take away from the grind that I had to go through. I got told no at every single turn, too slow, not enough power, just doesn't fit the mold. I'm like, that's fine. And I'm still here. And like, until you rip this off my back, I'm never going to take no for an answer. And if you tell me no, I will pull every fingernail and toenail off to prove you wrong if given the opportunity.
And is it easy, hard, or the biggest challenge in your entire life to try to convey what you just told me to your son?
I'll give you a quick little story. So my son was like probably 6, and I was still playing. And I tried to give him some advice, and he looked me dead in the face and he goes, "Dad, you're a player, not a coach." And that was on, and I was like, you're right. And I totally, it's hard because I always say this to people. We had this conversation too about parents. Like, I don't expect you guys to understand how my mind works. Like, I am different. And like, I want more for your kid than your kid wants of himself. And just because I'm hard on him and I'm pushing him, it's not a negative thing. I know there's more in there, and I'm just trying to fight to get it out. So I don't expect you to understand how I visualize things and how I see things. Like, practice. You do this or that. And I'm like, yeah, I see a vision, because I know if we pull this off and we win some games, and they start doing things that they never thought were possible, not only is my job to win games in high school, but I'm trying to develop a kid into a man.
Right.
I tell my players every day in high school, it's like, you guys make life-changing decisions every time you get behind the wheel of a car. Whether you turn left, we live in a really crazy place with one road. And sometimes it's really hard to make a left-hand turn. You make a life-changing decision every day. So don't tell me you can't handle responsibility. You can. You just haven't been challenged enough yet. And I'm here to challenge you. And my son, it took him a while to understand that. He thought it was nuts. He thought it was a little crazy, which he's not wrong. But I also want to instill the same thing my dad instilled in me that I want to instill in him. Because I know the way my dad did it right. I didn't like it all the time. We had some rough moments, but he's my best friend. And if it works out that way for mine, I will do a naked backflip if I have the relationship that me and my dad have with my son. So and that's how I feel. And I'm going to stick with what I know. Well, that's what we do, right? We stick with what we know.
For sure. It's challenging though, to try to, like, it's one thing to, kind of give the tough love to the kid that you don't necessarily know or whatever, and you have a different relationship with your own. It's like, how much do you?
Going back, I literally had parents call, like, supervisors about how I coach my own son. And I thought that was kind of crazy. I was like, I coach my catchers hard. My son's a catcher. I go, I'm coaching my catcher hard. It just so happens that catcher has the same last name I do. If your son was catching, I'd be just as hard on him as I am my own. And I was blown away that I was getting questioned about how you made it sound like I was like physically like putting my hands on him. Like, I'm not. I go, I'm expecting him to be better. That's it. And I always feel like if you push, I always say this too in minor league baseball, kids they didn't like discipline, but they craved it. Mm-hmm. They really enjoyed the whole, for example, I would tell them some nights we'd get a long 17, 18-hour bus ride when we're getting home, and I would give them the option, because normally the normal day they get there about 1:30 during the day, maybe 2 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game. So we'd get in late, and I'd be like, okay, you guys can come whenever you want to. Like, game starts at 7, just make sure you're here by 6. Well, all the guys that would push the envelope about getting there late were the first ones at the park. I'm like, so here you have a free reign, but they were so worried about coming at 4 and making it look bad. I'm like, you sit there and you bark at me about always having to be here so early. When I give you the freedom, you show up earlier than you do when there's a 2 o'clock show up day. Huh. So just things like that, you kind of learn and you move. And that's the one thing I love about coaching, and that I did it. And I miss my guys. I've been lucky. I've coached, World Series MVPs, a lot of probably, countless 50, 60 big leaguers that I've been around, and it's just a different generation. So it's like to be involved in their life is really what it's all about. And that's what I feel like my experience or in anything, whether it's fishing or whether it's baseball or coaching, I just think that's like, I love that part the most, because that's how this world should work. You know, you pass down information that you've learned. You're not going to give them everything. You might not give them the exact spot, but you're going to teach them what to look for. And now it's up to you to go find it. So, that's kind of, there's so many similarities to, fishing and sports and things like that.
There are. And that was going to be one of my questions, is like, you've taken baseball to the highest level. And how do you see that? Like, what kind of lessons do you see from baseball that you've applied to fishing, and what are the similarities or differences?
I use it as a way to still compete. And I've been lucky enough to be on what the heck is it? We call it the Quest for the Crest. And it's, and we've won the jacket 4 times. The group I've known JC Clear, I've known him since I was 5 years old. We played Little League together, high school all the way up. And he's one of the best captains in the game, in my opinion, in our whole group. And I think what it's taught me is that you're never out of it. We've been 6-7 fish back with an hour to go and came back and won. We've caught fish in the last 15 seconds that had a lot of money on the line. It teaches you how to handle situations when, things get, you get that 4 or 5 banger in the spread and everybody's screaming. And I'm just, hey, calm down. One at a time. First one's the hardest. I'm excitable. I'm really excitable in the tower. When I'm on the deck, I'm trying to calm everybody down. And, but yeah, there's a lot of similarity. You compete, you put your time in, you put your time on the water, you respect your opponents. You understand that this is a fish and you don't have it all licked, which is very similar to baseball. The biggest kiss of death in a baseball player's mouth is I've got it all figured out. No, you don't. Then you're 0 for 30's coming, bud, because that's just the way the game humbles you. And fishing's the same way. As soon as you think you have it all licked, again, we're still playing with nature, and they can change at a drop of a hat. We can have experience. We can be in the same place, same condition, and they just don't want to eat. So I just love
they eat 30 feet over there to the other boat.
Yep.
Over and over and over again for whatever reason.
And it's very similar to a lot of, I would think it's like bridge fishing for tarpon, right? This boat keeps getting bit. The guy next to him skips him. And then it goes here. You're on the rip, you're on the line and going, okay, I'm lined up perfectly. Here comes my bite. And you look and you're got the force field on today. They're going around us, so it's.
And there is that. And there is the, like what you were talking about just didn't happen for us today. Like you were talking about baseball. I was just really bad today. And there are going to be days like that to where you do everything pretty much right and you don't get anything. Other times you go out there with your wife and you have one rod and you didn't even bring any leader. You've got a 4-foot leader and you keep cutting it back over and over and over again. And you just can't stop getting bit.
Can't get away from it.
The easiest thing ever. And you don't understand exactly what's going on there. It's I'm using a hook that I would consider way too big. It's the only one I've got. I had 2 baits in the live well and I reused them 4 times because they were, I could maybe salvage it. I don't know how that happens, but when people do really well in the tournaments consistently, it does seem to be about the details. People are all in the right spot, but there's one boat that's catching the fish. And maybe they don't catch them all today. Maybe they don't win this tournament, but they'll be in the top 5. And maybe it's the next time, but there'll be these boats that are always in the top 5. And, in my career, when I was fishing the tournaments, I was lucky to be one of those guys at times. And I started thinking about what is it? Well, wasn't that I started thinking about it later, thinking, what is it that's keeping me in the top 5? I had a conversation with my friend, Tim Hoover, who was the guide. He was winning everything. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing, man? How are you doing this? And he said, well, I just pay attention to the details. And it was really good advice because I was like, well, what do you mean the details? What details are you talking about? He goes, well, are your hooks sharp? If your hooks are sharp, maybe you got a 1% advantage. If everything's, perfect, you got a 1% advantage. Are your knots strong? If your knots are strong and they're not going to break, maybe that gives you a 1% advantage. Do you have fresh bait? Did you take care of your bait right? Maybe that's a 1% advantage. And he just kept going. And he goes, see, and over the day, maybe I got a 15% advantage over somebody that just showed up. And that's about the way it worked out. Like he would constantly be the winner. And then I started thinking, okay, well, I'm going to start thinking about every little thing as, can this possibly be improved? Could I be using a better hook? Could, like even to the point of like, okay, now I'm going to start writing down how many fish were hooked and how many fish were landed, and come up with a hookup percentage, to landing ratio. Could that be improved even by 1 percentage point? And then that's the hook that you need to use, right? And it seems like baseball is a lot like that, like a numbers game and kind of a chess game. Wrestling, I think, is another sport that it seems like a lot of my clients, when you ask them about their athletic background, if you see people that are pretty athletic and they love fishing. I mean, they love it. They are so in. And I would ask them about their athletic background, and a big percentage were either baseball players or wrestlers. And I wonder why that was. I don't know. What's your thought on that?
That's a good. I never thought of it that way. I think baseball is such a mental game that there's such a mental challenge to it. And I've never wrestled, but I know wrestlers, and people think that it's just I'm stronger than you. That has something to do with it, but it's anticipation. It's how you move. It's how to react to your opponent, how they acted, how we react. Exactly.
Yes.
And there's a lot of that goes into fishing, right? I mean, we could be 30 seconds late and we missed the tide, or we missed the change, or, he goes back to, I use the line, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that's people always ask, I haven't done a ton of when I've been behind the wheel, but I feed the baits better than I feed myself for 3-4 months. And if I'm next to somebody who's just as good as me, my bait might be, and that day he might want mine because it's a little bit more active, and they might send, you just don't know. So, people think I'm crazy and like, well, I got to feed the babies and feed the kids. I'm like, yeah, because it might not make a difference, but in my head, it does. So, and that's, and that's like people like, oh, if you're going to do it, I don't care if we're fishing for a plastic, a red Solo cup or $100,000. I like winning. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to prepare myself to win. And it's leaders. It's coming up with all kinds of situations, doubles of everything, because you never know what's going to happen. So all that preparation stuff, it ties into, and that's how I fun fish too. It's like, why are you going to go out there? I want to have a good time. Well, not many fishermen really have a really enjoyable time when they don't catch anything, regardless of what it is. You can say you enjoy the water, and we all do, but we like to reel stuff in. So I always felt like if the more I can make game practice day like game day, or game day like our practice, another great line I used to like kids, you either need to practice at the speed you play the game, or play the game at the speed you practice. Because right now you're wasting 5 days of practice because you're at 40%, and then you try to go put your body and mind into 110. So something's got to give. You either got to practice like you play, or play like you practice. And that's very similar to all this stuff we're talking about, that there's so many simple dynamics to everything. When if you sit down and really look at it, there's a reason why, like you said, the winners are always winning. They're always consistent. The consistency is what everybody strives for, whether it's business, whether it's, your diet, whether it's your, routine that you work out in. It's the hardest part's getting started. And once you get started, it becomes a habit, and habits become, consistent. So I think that's why baseball players, they appreciate the steps to what it takes, because there are so many steps to our day. We only, people think that, you guys get 4 months off. No, we don't. We get about 2 weeks, where I would come home from the season and I would put the hurricane shutters up and make it a cave. And don't call me. Don't knock on the door. Don't text me. I'm hibernating for 2 weeks to take a mental break. And then once I wake up and get back those 2 weeks, we're right back into running, taking care of our body again, getting on the water. And I think that's what most of it is that mental, right? That mental get rid of that mental, timeout that the water that you can't. I think the water for me and for us is something that just takes us away. And that's the one thing I've always admired about you guys, the guys that you not only do you do it because you love it, but it's also like your job. And I've seen too many times where the job aspect of it ruins it for people, regardless of what it is. Right. And the guys that still have a passion for it, I've always had tremendous respect for people that continually to do it. We went fishing the other day with, Alex Adler. He's fished every day for how long? Cappy's been doing it for 100 years, and he had 2 days off and he went fun fishing with us. I'm just like, that's what I'm talking about. Like that old salt you don't see that too often in this younger generation that I'm a little bit afraid of.
Well, who I have respect for is the guy that loves fishing so much, and he could be a guide, but he decides, no, I don't want to do that. Fishing's for me, and I'm going to make a career somewhere else so that I can fish, and I'm going to do that because I want to. Now, if he gets out on his own boat, he's every bit as good as a guide. If you saw him running around, he knows his way around. He knows exactly where he's going, but he's chosen that would ruin it for me. And then the other person that I have a lot of respect for is the guide that says, I'm not out here because I love to fish. I'm out here because I love the whole process of catching this other person this fish. I like to teach. I like to show people this thing. And I'm not out here, as soon as that person catches a fish, I'm not thinking, dang, I wish that was me catching that fish. No, they're like, this is exactly what it's all about. And then somebody will say, here, why don't you fish for a little bit? No, it's like, good, man. I've turned that part of my brain off. I'm here. I'm a guide today. Like, I'm not here to fish. I'll do that on another day. And that's where you see some fun fishing is like, that's when you go out with your buddy. And that was the whole idea with Saltwater Experience at the start is like, yeah, we guide every day. And then when we go out, these are the things that we want to do when we go out. And we're actually going to fish, because a fishing guide that works a lot doesn't fish much. No. If you get into the business because you think you're going to fish a lot, you're going to be on the boat a lot. You're going to be cleaning boats a lot, but you're not actually going to be, you're going to be cleaning fish a lot, but you're not actually going to be fishing that much. You know what I mean?
I've always been on the deck most of the time, and I started running boats. I would love to run a boat for tournaments because I love that aspect of it. Just what you said. I get more of a kick out of watching other people catch their prize than I do now. But it's funny. Whenever I'm on the floor, I want to be in the tower. Whenever I'm in the tower, I want to be on the floor, because when that fish comes up and it's not you with the winning fish in your hands, you're like, oh man, I wish that was me, because I know I trust myself, and not that I don't trust my teammates. But like I said, it's such a people think they have this, just like baseball. It's like any other thing. Like, people have this stigma in their head, like, oh, I'd love to be a guide. You guys live in paradise. I'm like, yes, we do. But if you realize the absolute grind that it is, mentally, physically, daily grind that these guys go through to fish every day, like it's not. I always say, like, don't let the TV shows fool you, because those guys are getting after it, and they got people that you have to clean the boat and fix the boat and make sure it works, and responsibility for all this. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody.
And the people that then what else makes it tough is that in order for you to fish 300 days a year, you need to be in a place that has enough tourism to support 300 days a year. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of places where you can be a fishing guide, but you're not going to get 300 days because either the weather's it doesn't allow it, or more than likely the weather in that place isn't nice consistently enough to have 365 days a year of tourism where people might want to go out on the water. The Florida Keys is one of the places where you can fish all year long, every single day. Right. You're going to have some weather days, but there are 365 potential days of the year you could fish. There's also enough tourism to drive trips for that many days for a certain number of people. That means that it's going to be a very expensive place. It's going to be incredibly expensive. And as a fishing guide, you're living in an incredibly expensive place And so you have to work. You got to work all the time. Like it's not like, well, I get so tired after I've fished, 72 days in a row. I really need to take a day off. Well, if you do that, they come and take your house. So you don't do that. You continue to work more and more and more and more. And it's not like, and then, there's some times where it's slow. I mean, all this, but there's sometimes that it's slow, and then there's really good times. And so that's why you see the guys that are really hard workers. They're taking a morning trip, a midday trip, and a night trip. And you got to take it. You got to make hay when the sun shines.
There's working and there's tarpon fishing. There's tarpon season working. And those guys are like, they literally just bring the boats out.
The offshore guys do it too,
I know, but it's always funny. You always look at the other side. You always think, I've heard offshore guys be like, oh, they got the bay boat. They got the flat skiff. I'm like, I don't want to pull somebody around all day. Like that's like, I'll take East 20 in the tower all day long over that. Like, it's like into the wind, and then you finally find a fish and you don't know if they're going to cast it right. It's just like, but everything has its positive and negatives. There's no doubt about it. But like I said, those tarpon guys, those 3 months, they're getting after it because they have to. You got to take advantage of it when it's hot, right? Take advantage of it and get out there.
That's right. Have you fished with Steve, Roger?
I have a couple times, and I've loved every second of it because I have like my son actually went to Key West High School his last he played baseball for them.
Nice.
So I was down there, and I have a friend I went to college with who's like my son's godfather. And so I got to meet Steve through him, and Rush Maltz is down there too. So like Steve is like, I love Steve. I owe Steve so much involving with my own son. He helped us out a ton. But yeah, just watching him go about his work, and the fact that he would get in the water. We went one time to a shrimp boat, and he got in the water. He couldn't see 3 feet down. I'm like, you're crazy. And he came up with the biggest mangroves I've ever seen in my life. I'm just like, but that's just, I understand how much and how hard this game is, especially and the knowledge it takes to accumulate to be the upper echelon of what those guys are, and to still be a good person. He's a riot. I love being around him. He makes me laugh, and I think that's a lot to do with that gets overlooked in the world of charter fishing. You got to have a personality because you can put people on fish all day long. If you're people ain't going to come back to you. They're going to try somebody else.
You're at the end of the day, it's hospitality. And at the end of the day, you got to be an entertainer. And at the end of the day, whether you caught a lot of fish or you didn't catch any fish at all, those people have to say, man, that was such a great day. We got to do this again. In fact, I want to do it again so bad that I'm going to book it right now before we even get off the boat. When can we go again? And that's an entertainer. And that's somebody that shows somebody a good time, whether you catch fish or you don't. And if people are apprehensive about going out on a boat, like maybe they don't have a lot of experience on a boat, they feel comfortable, they feel safe, they had a great time. That's a great fishing guide.
I learned that from my dad was running walleye trips in Lake Erie, and that when I was 3, 4, 5 years old. I learned that, watched him do that. And then you move on and you keep, and I always felt for me, and I haven't done nowhere near the amount of you guys have, but I have helped and run trips for friends and run my own trips. I remember that feeling as a kid when my dad would charter somebody, or we'd go to Costa Rica, and we can't wait even to this day. Like that excitement, you just I want to keep that feeling as a captain or as a mate, because I want to be able to, I know what these kids are feeling like, or these people that have drove all the way down here, that feeling like now it's my responsibility to deliver for them. Right. So, like I said, Costa Rica is a great one for us. My girlfriend and I go there she fishes the Pescadora, which is a female billfish tournament. They do it every year, and we go over there hopefully at least once or twice a year as much as we can. Like that feeling I have walking down the dock, I want to make sure that I deliver for my people that feeling I have when I'm walking down there going, this is the best ever.
Yeah, that's that deep breath. Yeah, that's perspective. And a lot of that perspective comes from age and having some experience, and also being outside of the charter world. Whether you're a professional baseball player or you're an insurance salesman, you're looking forward to this trip so much. And then if you get there and the guy is late, or his boat's all messy, or doesn't show up at all, what a drag, right? Like that is not acceptable. One of the things I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that your son went to Key West High School and played for them down there. Key West has a tremendous history of baseball, a very small place. And there's other places that are very small places that also have done extremely well in baseball. What is it about Key West that has that team continually performing at a high level in baseball?
I think a lot has to do with that culture. Like if you're a conch, like you have a little bit of a hometown chip on your shoulder. You're small. I think for the baseball aspect of it, I think the community is very tight, which means there's a ton of kids in that age group, and they've been playing together since day one, since 4 or 5 years old. And then you throw into now what Jack Niles and Ralphie Enriquez have done down there with the little leagues, and they just try to build this little machine that won't quit. And I think that's a big part of it. They play together since they're 5 or 6. You can develop a system to get up there. And I went to Westminster Christian, and I remember I said we won the national championship my senior year, and my coach, Rich Hoffman, who was in the Hall of Fame several times, remember him vividly saying, "You better be up a touchdown going into the last inning, because going down there is not easy to come out with a win." The fan base, the players, they just have a toughness. And I think that means something about it. I wanted my son to be a part of something that was, where the games truly, truly mattered. There was something behind it. Playing in front of a ruckus environment, like I think those are all character building aspects, and it just worked out for that way. And the main thing was his health, and that was the most important thing for me. But I've countless teams from across the state want to put their teams through playing games in Key West because it thinks it makes them that much better.
Huh. I was looking for a book while we were talking because I think it was called The Talent Code. Have you read that?
Have not.
You know what that is? You would probably like it. It's about what we're talking about. That this person noticed that there were certain places that produced an extraordinary amount of really high level performers. That could be violinists, it could be baseball players, it could be tennis players, it could be something where just an inordinate amount of people would end up at the very highest level. And there was they have this one about tennis players, and it's like all the Russian tennis players, Sharapova and everyone you've ever heard of, they basically all came from this one place. So this guy gets on a plane, he goes there, and he shows up, and he's like, "There's no possible way. This is the place." And it was like a desolate one tennis court with a fence around it. They didn't have enough balls for everybody to play with. And he's like, I can't be in the right place. And certainly he was in the right place, and they didn't have enough balls. And so they would do these drills. They would constantly be doing these drills without balls. But they created this culture of winning and this culture of the process. And that's what he found in all of these different places. He went to another place where it was all about the violin, and he gets there, and it's like this. It's not like this big, giant, beautiful place. It's kind of a crappy place, but it's not a crappy culture. It is amazing. That book is really cool. I mean, it's just really, really cool how he identified these different places and went there. And then he kind of identifies the similarities between, what is it? It's not about the facility. It's not necessarily about the coach. It's not necessarily about the players. A big part of it is the culture, and then the mindset that goes into this.
Players get better in the dark. Mm-hmm. That's and I can equate that story to the Latin American countries Venezuela, Dominican, Puerto Rico, even they come from, and now they're coming from Germany, all over Asia. And the guys that I had in the minor leagues, I would joke around, and not joke around, but we had meetings with with Major League Baseball teams, our organizational meetings, and they would say trust me, these Latin kids are coming from places that some of our American guys wouldn't even step foot in, and they're playing games on that. And that's why they are mentally tougher for the most part. They're tougher. Sure. They understand what adversity is. These other, it's not a disrespect to the American kids, but like there's a difference between a 16-year-old Venezuelan kid and a 16-year-old American for the most part.
That's where you go back to what we were talking about before. Weakness is strength. One is played on a dirt, rocky field their whole life, and then moves to this perfect field. It's like, this is amazing.
Right.
Like,
this is incredible.
Yeah. It seemed like a weakness that they had to grow up playing on that field in that place, but it turns out that's going to be the greatest strength they've ever had.
And they end up being one of the best, like they end up being some of the best teachers too, because they don't want to, there's no BS.
Right.
They hold their players accountable. They hold their, and there's something to that. Whereas I've learned to like really, really respect my Latin American players, because I would actually go to them for advice, because am I missing something here? Because as far as toughness, like what did you guys do? Like, how did you guys, the same questions we're asking each other here, I would ask them, what were obstacles that you had a hard time with when you first came over to America, or how it was to get off there? And you learn so much. Now that's the one thing too, I keep going back to that question you asked me about the similarities between fishing and baseball, or why all the guys are wrestlers and baseball players. You think about things like that where, it's both things are, you'll never stop learning. Fish change. Baseball, like analytics, change everything. And the game's always evolving. Fishing's always evolving, right? Yes. We've got, Seymour maps, and we've got every hump and rock known to the man. And, for us, sailfish wise, and I'm sure with you, shark populations, sharks have changed the way sailfish eat, especially up the road in West Palm, when it's starting to trickle its way down to us. Like, it's definitely changed the way their eating habits, their migratory patterns, all that stuff. So it's ever changing. So what you've learned, if you stop learning, you're getting left behind.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing about the similarities between like the way you describe baseball is it's almost the same with fishing. It's almost way more failure than there is success. And especially if you think about like a bass fishing or something like that, where you're making cast after cast after cast after cast, and you might cast 400 times and you catch 4 fish, and it's been a great day. Like, you caught, it was fantastic. We did great, but there were 400 casts that got nothing. And then of those, there were like 20 that got stuck on something. And you had to break it off. Like, it could be considered dismal failure, but it's not. It's like, I don't know. It's a way to deal with, I think it's great for young people, because it is a way to deal with adversity. Then I'm not sure that kids have enough adversity these days. They
trust your instincts, right?
Yeah, trust your instincts, and then also celebrate the win and be grateful for what you get, because that's a big one. What was the Olympics like?
Oh man, probably the most, outside of my son, not to sound like a typical athlete here, but outside of my son being born, it just doesn't get any better than this. I grew up I was born in Toledo, Ohio. Toledo Gold Diggers were our minor league hockey team. Micah Rosioni scored the game-winning goal against the Russians in 1980. He was on the Toledo Gold Diggers team.
Ever. When I went to right behind me, I was at Lake Placid at the Great Outdoor Games. Went into that place where they did that. I couldn't believe how small it was. It looked tiny, like a grammar school hockey rink.
That's exactly what it was like. So I literally, I had Micah Rosioni Toledo Gold Digger shirts as a kid. So he was like my favorite player. So watching the 80 Olympics was huge. And the Olympics was huge in my household. So I ended up getting to know him and spent some time with him when I was like, I'll tell you that story after this. But the Olympics to me in my house was the end all be all. Like United States. And you're talking like my cousin and I would play hockey in the basement in Ohio. And we would play the national anthem before we just played, in the basement. So it meant something to us. Had a chance to go. I played on the USA team in 1994 in college, and that was back when they were still using college players. I signed pro in 95. My mom was bent up because she thought I could have played in 96 in Atlanta. I don't think I make that team. That was probably the best amateur team that's ever been put together. So getting a chance to go back in 2000 was a really neat phone call to give my mom. Like, I know it's not Atlanta, but are you willing to go to Sydney? because your boy's in the Olympics and she lost it. So, the experience, you walk into the opening ceremonies and it's just like, you feel like an ant. There's just people everywhere and you're walking next to Kevin Garnett and Mia Hamm. And you just feel like you have like this sense of just pride that you can never, you couldn't rip it off. It's just, you're goosebumpy and you're walking around with nothing but United States people. And then I always said that even if we didn't win the gold medal, the opening ceremonies makes you feel like, if you're not alive, like I looked at, a couple of my teammates, I'm like, man, how alive do you feel right now? And I was like, this is what it's all about. And now I understand, and being a part of it, and the village and the food and the travel, and then you have the games, and then you have the medal stand, right? Well, I lost it. I bawled my eyes out because I looked down. I remember I put my head down. They put the medal around my neck, and right across from my line of view was my mom, my dad, my sister, her husband. And I literally, I look at my mom and dad, literally lost it. I was like, all the sacrifice they put me to get me where I am now. And I couldn't hold it back. I was bawling. And to think about, and you make those, those still shots in your head of injuries and, setbacks and, when all these people told you no, and now, you're playing this move in your head and to play the anthem and to see your flag getting raised higher to this day, like watching the Olympics, no matter if it's curling or, whatever it is, United States win. It's what? It's we won, right? So that sense of pride, it's just, it's second to none. And the funny story about Erosione was I played with John Havlicek's daughter's husband. So Jill and Brian Buchanan, Jill was John Havlicek's daughter. So I played with him in the minor leagues. So we got to go to the Sportsman of the Year in 2000, which was Tiger Woods. And I was like the token baseball guy that did all the that type stuff. So I'm standing next to, and I've spent time with John Havlicek before, whether it's fishing or, drinking in Key West, having a good time, having some drinks at Fat Tuesdays. He loved those things. And so we sit there and I'm standing next to John Havlicek, Tom Seaver, and Bill Russell. And I'm in heaven, right? I mean, this is just guys, we're talking fishing and doing whatever. And I see Mike Erosione out of the corner of my eye, and I literally pushed Bill Russell out of the way. And I was like, I have to, no Hondo, no disrespect, but that's like, to me, there's Mike Erosione and Dan Marino, and they're 1 and 1A. And I pushed everybody out of the way. And I said, literally, I couldn't even talk. I literally couldn't speak. And I was like, you have been my favorite player since I was 5 or 4 years old. And he's like, that's funny. My kids like watching you. And so we ended up riding in the limo together to the after party. We ended up talking quite frequently. And to top it off, I got traded from the Minnesota Twins to the Boston Red Sox. And when I got traded mid-season, come to find out that Mike's, I think, sister worked with the Red Sox. And when I showed up into my locker in Fenway, there was a USA Erosione jersey with the C on it. And I was like, I literally wore it like 3 days a week, and I still have it and I still wear it all the time. So it's just funny how this, and it goes back to being Olympian. That's what it's all about. No matter what year it was, no matter what sport it was, it's just, you have this bond that will never be broken.
That's so cool, man. What an incredible career.
I said, I've been very lucky. I've been in the right place at the right time a lot of times. And has nothing to do with talent. I just happen to be there. And I can't complain with the way everything has turned out. And hopefully there's still some more to come. But if it's not, I'm totally content with what I've done.
That's awesome, man. Well, I can't wait to meet in person and get on a boat one of these days.
For sure.
It'll be super fun. I know it's going to happen.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. I appreciate you coming. And
yes,
this will be out soon, and we'll do it again. Well,
Sounds good. You got to come on mine.
Yeah, I'd like to do yours.
Okay.
So what do you do on yours?
Whatever. I mean, I've done baseball stuff, which is obvious. I've done some college football stuff, but I want to do training. I'd love to pick your brain about, what makes you tick, what makes you continue to keep doing what you're doing. as far as longevity of being able to do that? Like, was it fishing that kept you going? Like, you didn't want your back to hurt, or you didn't want your legs to hurt, or what, like, tricks of the trade to keep, because I want to do it for people, like, whether you're 16 or whether you're 60, right? My dad still does push-ups and sit-ups. He's 84 years old. So it's like that type stuff, like that mental side of that stuff. I like doing more of, like, everybody can say they want to go do it physically, but it's more the mental that gets you, like, get your feet on the floor and let's go.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to do that. I'd love talking about that. I even do the Physical Friday. I don't know if anybody here likes to hear me talk about that, but I love to talk about it because it's, I don't know, it's a big part of who I am. And
I watched a lot of your stuff on YouTube, like that stuff where you're doing, like, the different workouts and stuff like that. Like, hell, I'm trying to get back into it as best I can, but that type of stuff is, I've always, even before this is, 5, 6, 8 years ago, when I would see your stuff on TV or like, and online and stuff. And like, I'd be like, damn, like that's, it made me feel hopeful. Cause I'm like, that's a guy that's my age. He's still doing it. So it's possible. Yeah.
Well, so, let's do it. I'll do it anytime you want.
Okay. Appreciate it.
All right. Sounds good. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on. And
thanks for having me.
We'll definitely do it again. And if somebody wants to listen to your podcast, where do they go?
The Dugout Podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. It's called The Dugout, like DOUGOUT. It's we just got started, and we're gonna do a lot of Olympic stuff. We're gonna do baseball breakdowns, college football, anything sports related, and I want to tie into college and mental and physical. Just kind of I want to not just be a sports podcast. I want to be like kind of the stuff we talked about, like the mental side of things and how to help, whether it's a youthful. I want to do a youth. We're parents, and I want to do a call-in. I want to turn this into like a call-in show or like comments to where if parents have questions, we can go ahead and do a live one and talk about, because I have so many things that doing this recruiting thing that you get the same questions coming up. And like, well, if I can help 5 more parents help their kid become such and such, then it's worth it. So just educational is a good way to put it. Like, I want to be educational with experience and moving forward, and having people on that are in the industry and have them keep reiterating the truth, because sometimes people, no matter how many times you hear it, they think they know everything, and it's like, no, you don't. This is the horse's mouth. This is what he's looking for, and he's not lying to you. He's not going to come on my show and tell you a lie. He's telling you exactly what he's looking for, so follow it. So that's kind of the stuff we want to do.
Right on, man. The Dugout Podcast. Go check it out.
So looking forward to many years of it. How's that?
That sounds great. All right. Well, we'll do this again, and good luck in the Sailfish.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Tom. Thanks, buddy.
See ya.